It is coming to the late fall winter season, and that means there's a slight love-hate relationship with climbing. We love it because the rocks are perfect, there aren't very many people out, but it's kind of a hate relationship because it's cold and it's not as easy to get all the blood circulating to all the limbs while you're climbing. Today we're going to go through what you should wear while you're climbing and while you're belaying to have the best experience possible. Hi, I'm Sarah from SendEdition.com. If you're new to climbing or looking for new climbing gear, click subscribe. I'm making videos like this just for you. So when it comes to climbing, we're going to separate belayer from climber. Obviously, you're probably going to take turns, but there are some layers you can wear as a belayer that you can't while you're a climber. So let's get started from head to toe as the climber. Now, as a climber, you may want a hat, and that's fantastic, but if you're looking at a hat like this that has a nice cute little cotton ball on top, this isn't going to fit very well with your helmet. And while it is cold outside and you want to stay warm, you still need to make sure that your safety is number one important. So find a hat that doesn't have a cotton ball on like this, and make sure you're covering your ears with it. Many climbers also like earmuffs, and if you wear earmuffs, they do have athletic earmuffs. Just make sure that you can still hear and communicate with your belayer appropriately. Working our way down, let's talk about the neck. Now, the likelihood of you being able to find a scarf that fits you well, that is going to not interfere with your climbing, is pretty slim, but a lot of times hooded vests like the one I'm wearing right now actually has tabs for your neck so you can keep your neck warm. Really, the biggest thing here is making sure that it's away from the wind. If you have short hair like mine, that's probably going to be a bigger concern for you. So just make sure that you do have something covering your neck, but you probably don't want a scarf because the scarf can get in your way while climbing. Working our way down to our shoulders, you may notice that I'm wearing a vest instead of a puffy jacket. Now, there are a lot of people that go to the crag with a puffy jacket and then they have to take off the jacket because it might interfere with their arm movement. You may be lucky and that's not the case. In fact, I have a fluffy jacket that I may be able to get away with. I also have a fleece jacket that I could probably have full movement in while climbing, but there is something to be said about the freedom of a vest if you're concerned about the movements of your shoulder. In addition to the vest or a fleece jacket that you're wearing, also consider a base layer. This is a base layer long sleeve shirt. You can also wear a long sleeve shirt on top of that. I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt on top of my base layer so that you can see the base layer, but I'm inclined to wear a long sleeve shirt. There is a little bit of change in what I feel like I can do with my hands, but that's more so because when I lift my arm up, if the shirt I'm wearing isn't long enough, it may feel like there's a breeze going down my belly button. So that's just something to consider when you are trying on different shirts or whatever you're trying to figure out for your warm weather. Stick up your arms, make the movements like you would while you're climbing so that you can get an idea of what it will be like when you're on the rock. One thing that I'd highly recommend putting in your pockets is some hand warmers. Hand warmers may be just the perfect thing because when you are climbing, your hands are going to get cold and the circulation is already poor when you're climbing. So having hand warmers in your pockets is awesome. Since we're at the waist level with the pockets, let's talk about your chalk bag because you can put hand warmers in your chalk bag as well. I'm familiar with many people who just stick it in with their chalk. It becomes almost like a chalk ball, but you don't want to squish this around very much because you don't want it breaking. If it breaks in your chalk bag, that would really suck. So just be really careful with using it. You can grip the heat pad while you're putting chalk on your hand, and that can be a really nice relief for you while you're climbing. From the waist, let's talk about your pants. A base layer, again, making sure that you have something covering. I also really enjoy my Black Diamond Notion pants. I just barely bought my 5th pair of Notion pants from Black Diamond. They're not super warm though. They will help with the wind, but they're not super warm. So you also need to be wearing a base layer of clothing. There are different ratings for base layers. There is 0-degree weather base layer. 32 degrees is what I have. I don't intend on being outside in anything colder than 40 degrees. maybe 32, but it snows here so often that that's probably not very safe for me to do. So just keep that in mind. After that, you have your feet. Now your feet are next to your hands, one of the most important parts of your body when it comes to climbing, and you need to keep your toes as warm as possible. If you are lucky enough to have the funds to get another pair of climbing shoes, consider getting a pair of climbing shoes that you can wear with wool socks. I know it sounds weird to wear socks with your climbing shoes, but if you are climbing in the cold and you can wear wool socks, that's likely going to make it so that your feet can maintain circulation longer and they'll be able to function better than if you didn't wear socks. If you aren't able to wear socks with your climbing shoes, consider at least putting hand warmers or foot warmers you can usually wedge them in your foot a little bit. I find it pretty difficult to get my toes warm that way though. So what usually ends up happening is after I'm done climbing, I have to rub my feet, my little toes until they warm up, and then I add a heat warmer and wool socks to my approach shoes. So I'm wearing warm things while I'm belaying, not necessarily climbing. But again, if you have the opportunity to find a pair of shoes that you fit with socks, do it. That sounds, it's really helpful to be able to maintain feeling in your toes while climbing. Now let's talk about the hands a little bit more. I mentioned using hand warmers in your pockets and in your chalk bag, but there are some people who actually use fingerless gloves while climbing just to help a little bit with warmth. This is fantastic because usually you need your fingertips the most, and though you do need the rest of your fingers, the rest of your hands to climb, the glove isn't usually an impeding piece of gear. However, it will get worn and torn pretty quickly because you will be using it on the rocks and it may scratch and get ripped. So if you are going to wear fingerless gloves, consider not wearing your very favorite fingerless gloves. So that's everything that you need to be considering as a climber. Let's talk about the differences with belayers. And when it comes to headgear, head to toe, everything's similar except you can wear full out jackets. You don't have to worry about your arms being able to move up and down. So if you have a nice warm jacket, this is the time to wear it. If you can use an auto locking device, your hands are already cold, being able to have that extra assistance is really nice. I love the Gree. I also use the Lifeguard and think it's a fantastic belay device, so consider using those. In addition to that, you may be wondering about gloves. Now, there are two main types of gloves. There is just like a basic warmth glove, and the thing with most gloves like this, they may have like a rubber coating on it. This rubber coating is going to get torn to pieces because the rope is just going to rub across them. You may also be wondering if you should try snow gloves, and if you are, the reservations I have about snow gloves is first, you're gonna run through them like crazy. They're gonna get torn up easy. But second, are you able to maintain the rope the way you need to, and are you able to pull back the lever for the belay device? Just make sure that you aren't losing functionality of your hands when you're wearing gloves. You may also want to consider getting work gloves from Home Depot because that's what I use while belaying. They have an extra layer of leather that just makes them last a little bit longer than your basic hand gloves. So you've got really thick socks on. That's definitely going to be an important way of helping you stay warm. At this point, you need to consider what shoes you're wearing. Now, if you've seen my approach shoe video, then you already know that I don't really feel like waterproof approach shoes is necessary because the likelihood of me going through water while getting my way to an outdoor climb is pretty slim, so you can save money there. However, when it comes to the winter season, the likelihood of you maybe walking around snow might go up. In that case, you may want an OutDry climbing shoe. This is an OutDry climbing shoe from Columbia. OutDry compared to waterproof just means that it will help drain the water if water gets in it, plus it will help prevent water getting from inside it in the first place. These don't cover my ankles, and with any shoe that doesn't cover your ankle, the likelihood of snow or something cold going in through the top does increase, so consider that if you have to go through feet of snow to get to the crag, then you may consider getting full out snow boots or something that will cover your ankles. There are, for any kind of shoe, you can usually get a sleeve that goes over the top of the shoe so that it keeps them dry, not necessarily warm. So that's everything that I had to share about staying warm while you're climbing outside in the cold. If you have ideas or recommendations that I didn't mention, please leave them in the comments. I'm sure it will be helpful to myself and anyone else that reads it. Thanks for watching this video and enjoy climbing.